The lights are already hot before the cameras roll. Not warm, hot like they're waiting to expose something. The Tonight Show stage glows in that familiar blue, polished wood shining like a calm surface hiding deep water. Jimmy Fallon stands center stage, smiling the way he always does, easy, practiced, safe. The band fades out. Applause crashes like a wave and slowly pulls back. Then she walks out. Priyanka Chopra. Not rushing. Not waving too much. Just a measured stride, heels clicking with intent, every step landing like punctuation. She's smiling. But it's the kind of smile that doesn't give anything away. The kind that knows more than it's letting on. The audience cheers louder than expected, almost instinctively, as if they feel it too. Something's different tonight. Before we go any further, if you live for these moments, the ones that feel unscripted, raw, and just a little dangerous, subscribe to Fame and Frame right now. Like this video, drop a comment, and stay with us because what unfolds next isn't just an interview. It's a slow collision. They hug. A beat too long. Jimmy jokes something light, something familiar. The crowd laughs on cue. Priyanka laughs too, but her eyes don't fully close when she does. She sits, crosses her legs, adjusts the mic with calm precision. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It hangs, thick, almost audible. Jimmy starts where he always starts, career highs, global fame, the incredible journey. He's playing the hits, building comfort. Priyanka nods politely, answering smoothly, voice warm, controlled. She's done this 1,000 times. But tonight, there's an edge beneath the polish like a blade under silk. Jimmy leans forward slightly, energized. You've been everywhere, he says, smiling wide. Hollywood, Bollywood, music, fashion, do you ever stop? The audience chuckles. Priyanka tilts her head. Just a fraction. Do I ever get allowed to stop? She replies. A soft laugh ripples through the crowd, but it's uncertain. Jimmy blinks. Not thrown off yet, but something registers. He laughs it off, taps his desk lightly. That's true, that's true. You're always working. She smiles again. Same smile. But this time she holds eye contact. Just a beat longer than necessary. The conversation continues, but the air has shifted. Jimmy moves to a story about her early days in America. The culture shock. The learning curve. He frames it lightly like an obstacle course she charmingly skipped across. Priyanka listens. Patient. Still. Then she speaks. It wasn't really a curve, she says calmly. It was a wall. The audience quiets. Even the band doesn't breathe. Jimmy laughs reflexively. A wall. Okay. No, she continues, gently interrupting. Her tone isn't sharp. That's what makes it sharper. A wall. With rules no one explained, expectations no one admitted to, and judgments people pretended weren't there. Now Jimmy stops laughing. He nods, trying to steer. Right, but you broke through. I survived, she corrects. The word lands heavier than expected. There's a difference. A murmur moves through the crowd. Someone claps once, then stops, unsure if it's allowed. Jimmy shifts in his chair. The smile tightens, not gone but strained at the edges. The cameras keep rolling. He pivots to humor, asks about her marriage, the long-distance schedules, the jokes fans love. Safe territory. The audience exhales, grateful for the release. Priyanka plays along for a moment. She laughs, shares a sweet anecdote. The room relaxes again. But tension doesn't disappear. It waits. Jimmy, emboldened by the laughter, leans in again. You've talked before about being underestimated early on, he says. But look at you now. Do you ever think people overthink those struggles? There it is. The question hangs, polished and casual but loaded. The kind of question that sounds harmless, unless you've lived the answer. Priyanka doesn't respond right away. She looks out at the audience, at the lights, at the camera. The pause stretches just long enough to feel intentional. The crowd goes quiet, sensing a line has been crossed, but not knowing how far. When she finally looks back at Jimmy, her smile is gone. Who do you think gets to decide that? She asks. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it. A flicker of surprise. The audience leans forward as one. She continues, voice steady but unmistakably firm. Because when you're the one living it, when every audition, every meeting, every headline reminds you that you're other, it's not an overthought. It's a constant. The word constant echoes. Jimmy nods slowly, trying to recover. Of course, I just meant. I know what you meant, Priyanka says. Not unkindly, but definitively. I'm just answering honestly. A few audience members clap. Louder this time. Jimmy laughs nervously, glancing toward the band, toward the producers off camera, like someone checking exits in a room that's suddenly too small. He clears his throat. Well, honesty is good, he says, attempting a joke. We like honesty here. Priyanka's eyes don't leave his. Do we? She asks softly. Silence. Not the awkward, quick silence of a missed joke. This one stretches. 5 seconds. 10. Long enough that the cameras don't know where to cut. Long enough that the audience stops breathing. Jimmy's smile finally slips. Just a little. Enough for everyone to see it. He shifts in his chair, taps his cue cards, unused, forgotten. Okay, he says lightly, too lightly. Let's talk about your new project. Priyanka nods. But before he can continue, she leans forward. Can I say one more thing? She asks. The way she says it makes it clear, she's not really asking. Jimmy hesitates. The audience watches him now, not her. The power has shifted, and everyone in the room feels it. Sure, he says. Go ahead. Priyanka inhales. Slowly, deliberately. You know, she begins. I've been invited onto shows like this my whole career. And almost every time I'm asked to explain myself. Where I come from. How I fit. Why I deserve the space I take up. Her voice doesn't shake. It doesn't need to. And I answer, she continues, because I'm grateful. Because I'm professional. Because women like me are taught that gratitude should be louder than truth. The audience erupts, applause, gasps, whispers colliding. Jimmy sits frozen, eyes wide, hands still. She turns to him fully now. But at some point, she says quietly, honesty stops being polite. The clapping grows louder. Someone whistles. The band looks uncertain, fingers hovering over instruments, unsure whether to play her off or stay silent. Jimmy finally speaks, but the words stumble out. I didn't mean to. I know, Priyanka says. Again calm. Controlled. That's kind of the point. The camera cuts to the audience, faces stunned, moved, electrified. Back to Jimmy, searching for footing. Back to Priyanka, composed, unflinching. And then she smiles. Not the polished red carpet smile. Something sharper. Something final. Jimmy swallows, nods slowly, and for the first time all night, he has nothing ready to say. The lights feel hotter now. The room feels smaller. And somewhere between the applause and the silence, everyone realizes this interview has crossed a line it can't uncross. Because Priyanka Chopra isn't done. And the next thing she says is going to change everything. The applause doesn't die down the way it's supposed to. It fractures instead. Some people clapping hard, others hesitating, a few frozen with hands half raised like they're unsure what reaction is safe anymore. The Tonight Show band exchanges looks, waiting for a cue that never comes. The studio lights hum overhead, louder now that no one is speaking. Jimmy Fallon finally exhales, a sound caught halfway between a laugh and a sigh. Well, he says, drawing the word out, buying time. That's powerful. Priyanka sits back, crossing her legs again, reclaiming space with a casual elegance that somehow makes everything she just said hit harder. She nods once, politely, like someone acknowledging applause at the end of a performance she didn't ask to give. Jimmy straightens his cue cards. He doesn't look at them, just needs something solid in his hands. You know, he continues, voice upbeat but slightly rushed. This is why people admire you so much. You're fearless. You say what people are thinking. A compliment. A deflection. A bridge back to safety. Priyanka smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. I don't think that's why, she replies. I think people admire honesty when it costs something. The room tightens again. Jimmy nods quickly. Sure. I mean, of course. He laughs lightly, glancing at the audience for backup. A few people laugh with him, but it's thinner now. The energy has changed. This isn't a late-night comedy show anymore. It's something closer to a courtroom, and everyone knows who's on the stand. He leans forward, lowering his voice as if intimacy might soften what comes next. Can I ask you something honestly? Priyanka raises an eyebrow. I thought that's what we were doing. A ripple of reaction spreads through the crowd, soft ooze. A nervous chuckle. Jimmy smiles again, but it's visibly forced. Fair, he says. Fair point. He hesitates, then commits. Do you ever worry, he asks carefully, that moments like this get taken the wrong way? Like people online might twist it into something bigger than it is. There it is. Not an accusation. A warning. Priyanka doesn't answer immediately. She looks down at her hands, fingers resting calmly on her knee. When she looks back up, her expression is open but resolute. They already do, she says. No matter what I say. Or don't say. Jimmy blinks. Right, but at least this way, she continues, gently cutting him off again. They're reacting to something real. The audience claps again, louder, more confident now. Jimmy waits it out, nodding along, but the nod has lost its rhythm. He's no longer steering, he's reacting. He tries a different angle. I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel pressure to represent more than just yourself? Priyanka's eyes sharpen, not angrily but with focus. I don't feel it, she says. I'm given it. A beat. When I walk into a room, she goes on, I'm not just Priyanka. I'm an example. A test case. A headline waiting to be written. That's not something I chose, but it is something I carry. The studio is silent now. No coughs. No shifting seats. Even the cameras seem to move more slowly, deliberately, like they're afraid to interrupt. Jimmy nods slowly, absorbing it. That's a lot, he says softly. It is, she agrees. And it's exhausting pretending it isn't. For a moment, just a moment, Jimmy seems genuinely disarmed. The host persona drops, replaced by something more human. I'm sorry if any of my questions felt. They didn't, Priyanka says quickly. Too quickly. Not individually. She pauses, then adds, it's the pattern. The word lands heavy again. Jimmy shifts in his chair. The smile is gone now. He's serious. What pattern? Priyanka looks straight into the main camera, not at him, at the audience at home. Millions of them. The one where success from people like me is treated as an exception, she says. Not an expectation. A murmur rolls through the crowd. Someone whispers, wow. Jimmy follows her gaze to the camera, realizing too late that the conversation has expanded beyond the room. This isn't just between them anymore. He clears his throat. I want to be clear, he says, measured now, careful. I have nothing but respect for you and your work. I know, Priyanka replies. This isn't personal. That somehow makes it worse. Jimmy forces a laugh. It kind of feels personal. The audience reacts, half laughter, half tension. Priyanka tilts her head. That's interesting, she says. Because for me it always is. The words hang there, sharp and undeniable. Jimmy opens his mouth, closes it, then tries again. Okay, he says, attempting levity. We're definitely going viral tonight. A few people laugh, relieved by the joke. Priyanka smiles faintly. That's usually what happens when truth makes people uncomfortable. The laughter dies quickly. Jimmy leans back, rubbing his hands together. You know, I've interviewed a lot of people, he says. And everyone has their struggles. Everyone's had doors closed on them. Priyanka's smile fades. Yes, she says. But not everyone is asked to justify opening them. The audience reacts instantly. Applause loud and sustained. Jimmy's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. He waits for the clapping to stop, then responds, voice firmer now. I'm not trying to argue, he says. I'm just saying. I know, she interrupts again, this time without softness. You're contextualizing. And I'm telling you what that context feels like from the other side. The temperature in the room spikes. Jimmy nods, but there's tension in his shoulders now, a subtle defensiveness creeping in. So what would you like to see change? He asks. Genuinely. Priyanka considers him for a long moment. The audience leans forward, sensing another line approaching. I'd like interviews where my success isn't treated like a miracle, she says slowly. Where my background isn't a hurdle to explain. Where my presence doesn't need translation. Jimmy listens, lips pressed together. And you think shows like this, he gestures around them, play a role in that? Priyanka meets his gaze. Everything does. Silence again. Thick. Heavy. Jimmy nods, eyes flicking briefly toward the producers off camera, then back to her. I hear you, he says. I really do. Priyanka studies him, as if weighing whether he truly means it. Do you? She asks. The question isn't hostile. It's worse than that, earnest. Jimmy doesn't answer right away. The audience holds its breath. Because for the first time the confrontation isn't just about culture or media or representation. It's about him. And whether he's willing to admit that this moment, this interview, is part of something much bigger than a late-night show. The pause stretches. And just as Jimmy finally leans forward to respond, the band accidentally hits a single note. Sharp. Sudden. Wrong. Everyone jumps. Jimmy turns toward the band, startled, then back to Priyanka. The moment cracks but doesn't break. The tension rushes back in, thicker than before. Because now, whatever Jimmy says next won't just be a question. The single stray note still seems to vibrate in the air, like a nerve that's been touched too hard. Jimmy Fallon clears his throat, glancing once more toward the band as if to silently promise not yet. He turns back to Priyanka, posture straighter now, shoulders squared. This isn't banter anymore. It's defense. I do hear you, he says again, slower this time, each word measured. But I think it's also important to recognize intent. The audience shifts. A few murmurs. Priyanka doesn't move. Intent doesn't erase impact, she replies. No pause. No hesitation. The sentence lands clean, practiced, not rehearsed but lived. Jimmy nods, lips pressed together. Sure. But if we start assuming the worst. I'm not assuming, she says. I'm responding. A wave of reaction rolls through the crowd, soft gasps, scattered applause. Jimmy exhales through his nose, trying to keep the tone even. Okay, he says. Let me ask this a different way. He leans forward, elbows on the desk, hands clasped. Do you think there's a risk, he asks, that conversations like this create more division than understanding? The question is calm, reasonable, dangerous. Priyanka studies him, really studies him. When she speaks, her voice is lower now, steadier. Only if people confuse discomfort with attack. The audience reacts instantly. Applause breaking out before she even finishes the sentence. Jimmy waits, jaw tight, then lifts a hand slightly to settle the room. But some people do feel attacked, he counters. They feel accused of things they never intended to do. Priyanka nods once. That's not new, she says. What's new is that they're being asked to sit with it. A beat. Jimmy's smile flickers back on, but it's thin. You're very good at this, he says, half joking. You should host a show. Laughter ripples through the audience, but it's uneasy. Priyanka smiles politely. I already do, she says. Every time I'm invited to explain my existence. The laughter stops. Jimmy shifts in his chair. The desk suddenly feels like a barrier instead of a prop. That's not fair, he says more firmly now. Neither is pretending it doesn't happen, Priyanka replies. The air feels heavy, almost humid. The lights glare brighter. A camera operator subtly adjusts focus, as if trying to sharpen something invisible. Jimmy leans back, crossing his arms briefly before catching himself and uncrossing them. I think we're talking past each other, he says. Because from where I sit. That's exactly the point, Priyanka interrupts. Her tone isn't raised, but it cuts through his sentence cleanly. From where you sit. A collective intake of breath from the audience. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it. He nods slowly, eyes narrowing, not in anger but concentration. So what would you want someone like me to do differently? He asks. The question hangs fragile. Priyanka takes a breath. When she speaks, it's deliberate. Listen without preparing a response, she says. Without needing to balance it. Without asking how it makes you look. Jimmy swallows. The audience is completely silent now. No claps. No murmurs. Just attention. He chuckles softly, almost to himself. That's harder than it sounds. I know, she says. That's why it matters. Another beat. Jimmy nods slowly. Okay, he says. I'm listening. Priyanka tilts her head, considering him. Are you? She asks. There's no malice in the question. Just clarity. Jimmy hesitates. For the first time all night, he looks genuinely unsure of what to say. His fingers tap the desk once, then stop. I think, he begins. The audience leans in. I think sometimes, he continues, people want late-night shows to be fun, an escape. Not. He gestures vaguely between them. This. A ripple of reaction moves through the room. Priyanka's expression softens. Not in agreement but understanding. Fun for who? She asks. The question lands like a quiet challenge. Jimmy exhales. For everyone, he says. Priyanka nods slowly. Everyone doesn't experience the world the same way, she replies. So fun isn't neutral. The crowd reacts again, applause breaking out, stronger now, sustained. Jimmy waits, nodding, but the applause doesn't feel like support anymore. Feels like a verdict. When it finally fades, Jimmy speaks more quietly. You're asking for a lot from a format that's built on simplicity. I'm asking for honesty, Priyanka says, even if it complicates things. Jimmy laughs softly, shaking his head. You really don't let anything slide. Priyanka meets his eyes. I used to, she says. It didn't change anything. Silence. The words hang there, heavy with implication. Jimmy's jaw tightens, then relaxes. He nods once. Okay, he says. Then let me be honest too. The audience stiffens. This is the moment. The pivot. Jimmy leans forward again, voice low. Sometimes, he admits, people in my position worry that no matter what we say, it won't be enough. That we'll always get it wrong. Priyanka listens. Really listens. She doesn't interrupt this time. That fear, he continues, makes people defensive, or quiet, or jokey. It's not always malice. Sometimes it's fear of messing up. The room feels different now. Less confrontational. More exposed. Priyanka nods slowly. I believe that, she says. But fear can't be the reason progress stops. Jimmy looks at her, eyes searching. So what happens when we mess up? Priyanka answers without hesitation. You own it, she says. You learn. And you don't make the person pointing it out feel like the problem. The audience erupts, applause louder than before, some people standing. Jimmy blinks, clearly surprised by the intensity. He glances around the room, then back at her. That's a lot of pressure, he says quietly. It's pressure we've been living with our whole lives, Priyanka replies. You're just being asked to feel it for a moment. The applause fades, but the weight doesn't. Jimmy nods, slow and thoughtful. He looks down at his desk, then back up. I didn't expect this interview to go here, he admits. Priyanka smiles faintly. Neither did I. They hold each other's gaze. The tension isn't explosive anymore. It's sharp, focused, undeniable. Jimmy inhales, preparing to speak again. And then from somewhere in the audience, a single voice calls out. Let her finish. Gasps ripple through the studio. Jimmy's eyes widen. Priyanka turns toward the sound, surprised. Security shifts. The producers panic off camera. The live energy spikes instantly, raw and unpredictable. Jimmy raises a hand, trying to regain control. Okay, he says. But the room has already tipped. 'Cause now it's not just an interview. It's a moment the audience has claimed. And whatever comes next won't be contained by the desk, the lights, or the format. The show is still live. And everything is about to spill over. The shout echoes longer than it should. Not because it's loud, but because no one knows how to put the moment back in its box. Let her finish. The words bounce off the studio walls, raw and unscripted. A few audience members clap instinctively. Others look around, startled, like they've just realized they're part of something that's already slipping out of control. A security guard steps forward, then hesitates. The producer's voices crackle faintly through Jimmy's earpiece. Jimmy raises both hands now, palms open. Not commanding, appeasing. Okay, he says, voice calm but strained. We've got this. We're good. Priyanka turns back toward him slowly. Her expression isn't triumphant. It's steady, grounded, almost solemn. The kind of look someone wears when they know the moment matters more than winning it. I wasn't finished, she says quietly. Not to the audience. To him. Jimmy nods. Go ahead, he says. And this time there's no hesitation. The studio goes completely still. Priyanka takes a breath. You can see it in her shoulders, the way she steadies herself. Not emotionally but deliberately, like someone choosing words that will live long after the lights shut off. I want to be clear, she begins. I don't think this room is hostile. I don't think you're the villain. She glances at Jimmy briefly. And I don't think conversations like this ruin joy. She pauses. I think they redefine it. The silence deepens. Because joy that depends on silence, she continues, was never joy for everyone. It was comfort for some. A murmur ripples through the audience. Heads nod. A few people wipe at their eyes without realizing it. Jimmy doesn't interrupt. He doesn't joke. He doesn't deflect. He just listens. I'm not asking to be treated gently, Priyanka says. I'm asking to be treated honestly, and to not be punished for returning that honesty. She leans back slightly now, releasing the intensity, not dropping it, just setting it down between them. That's it, she says. That's all. For a moment no one reacts. Then the applause hits. Not the usual late-night applause. Not polite. Not rhythmic. It crashes through the studio, uneven and emotional. People stand. Others clap while still seated, stunned, overwhelmed. The band looks to Jimmy again, waiting. Jimmy doesn't cue them. He stands. Slowly. Intentionally. The audience reacts again, gasps, louder applause. Jimmy steps out from behind the desk, something he almost never does, and faces Priyanka fully. Thank you, he says. His voice is quieter now. Real. For trusting this space enough to say that. Priyanka stands too. They're on equal footing now. No desk. No barrier. Thank you, she replies, for letting it happen. They share a look. Not warm, not cold. Honest. The band finally plays, but softly. No triumphant riff. No forced celebration. Just a subdued transition as the camera pulls back, trying to reclaim control of a moment that clearly doesn't belong to the show anymore. The segment ends. But the night doesn't. Within minutes, clips flood social media. Phones light up backstage. Producers whisper urgently. Headlines start forming before the commercial break even finishes. Priyanka Chopra shuts down Jimmy Fallon. Late-night interview takes unexpected turn. Honesty or ambush? Twitter fractures into camps. Instagram fills with slow-motion edits of her pauses, her words layered over dramatic music. TikTok loops the line, intent doesn't erase impact, millions of times. Some praise her courage. Some accuse her of making it too serious. Others ask why it took this long for a moment like this to happen on live television. Jimmy trends too. Clips zoom in on his silences, his reactions, the moment his smile fades. Think pieces analyze his body language. Defenders rush in. Critics sharpen their knives. But one thing is undeniable. No one is ignoring it. By morning, the interview has escaped context. It's bigger than the show. Bigger than both of them. It's being played in classrooms, debated on podcasts, dissected in comment sections where strangers argue like it personally changed something, or personally threatened something. And somewhere in all that noise, one truth keeps resurfacing. That wasn't a confrontation meant to destroy. It was one that refused to disappear quietly. So now it's your turn. Was Priyanka right to say what she said? Exactly the way she said it? Or did the moment cross a line late-night TV wasn't ready for? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Read what others are saying. Argue if you have to, but don't look away. And if you want more moments like this, the ones that feel raw, uncomfortable, and impossible to forget, subscribe to Fame and Frame. Because the most powerful stories aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones that leave the room silent.